my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome to another episode of INGRAMS Skin Sessions, which we have proven to be a very thought-provoking campaign that encourages those brave conversations which are more than skin deep. And today we delve into a new topic, my name. My identity. I love the sound of that. Our names are intrinsically linked to our identities. We can't escape it. They are deeply rooted to our sense of self and allow us to navigate life with confidence and a sense of worth. Yet sometimes others casually alter a person's name without permission or understanding of how it can affect that individual.
Careless misspelling, mispronunciation, and also dead naming is disrespectful of one's identity, cultural heritage, or even their traditions. And when people feel they can disregard another's identity, that individual's emotional well-being can suffer. Now, in effect, you're telling that person that you don't see them as their true self. Understanding how to respect one's name and also identity can foster stronger relationships. And here to unpack this topic further this morning, we welcome back actress, writer, and poet, a friend of ours, Lebo Mashila, as well as political analyst, journalist, and broadcaster, Eusebius McKaiser. Welcome back to the both of you, our favorites, back on the couch.
Oh, thank you. We won't tell the others.
We've told them already. It's fine. It's fine. We love these conversations, and this one kind of feels like it should be easier than some of the topics that we've dealt with, but this is something that none of us can escape because we all have a name. We all have an identity. Eusebius, my biblically named friend, I'm going to start with you, my friend. As the great bard said, a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. So clearly a name doesn't matter. But it does. It's our identity. It forms part of how we see ourselves, how we project to the world. It can be a part of our culture. It's quite a loaded thing. Why is it so important that we pay the respect to a person by getting their name right, the name that they were either born with or the name that they've chosen? Why is our identity so rooted in our name?
We move through the world in our bodies, and that is then layered with social meaning. One of the ways in which the social meaning is imbued is through language, and naming is part of that process. So naming is a social game. We name you at birth, and particularly in African culture, there are interesting etiologies to our names and also origins. Maybe there's a significant event that happened. Maybe your mom's favorite character was Lebo on TV and then you become Lebo. And so that significance is what you carry in your name. And so when we respect someone's name by calling them by their name, we're doing more than acknowledging what is in on their birth certificate. We're also speaking into all of those layers.
I love that.
But it is a process, and we're all learning. It's about teaching others how to, identify your self-worth, including your names. And when someone doesn't identify you by your name, how does that then affect your self-worth?
I think because we live in a society where we're so used to having to accommodate and make other people comfortable, sometimes we don't even understand the emotional and psychological damage that is being done when we allow other people to mispronounce our names. I grew up in the US. My family was in exile 50 million years ago. And I grew up with people saying my name wrong for my entire childhood. I only heard my name being said properly by everybody when I came back to South Africa, And I mean, to the point where even when I was a child, my friends would hear my parents say my name and be like, but that's not your name, what do you mean? So I didn't understand that I was actually saying to the society, to my community, to my friends, that it's acceptable for you to not accept me as my full self. It's acceptable for you to diminish me. It's acceptable for you to not understand my culture. And when I finally realized the power in having my name pronounced correctly, being in a society where people understand my name and can say my name, then I could celebrate the beauty of my name. Its meaning, the poetry behind it, how I got it, like what you're saying. It's an assertion of one's being and one's history, one's lineage. So I get it. I mean, I get how we move through life and you constantly code switching. You come from the township, you go to a school in town, you work, you what. You have to accommodate other people, but the damage is being done.
What did the Americans say, by the way?
Labo, Labo, Libo. My favorite are the Germans. They say Lebegang. Like Wolfgang, Lebegang.
And hence, as South Africans, why we love seeing one of us perform on a world stage, hearing an American fight commentator try and wrap their mouth around Dricus du Plessis. Go for it. Give it a go.
Yeah.
Eusebius, I as I say it in my head now, I can't spell it. I'm sure people misspell it all the time. I'm sure people get it wrong all the time. The pronunciation thereof, I'm sure we've gotten it wrong a few times in our beautiful journey that we've walked with you. How do you deal with that? And when is the right time to turn it into a moment?
Yeah.
When do you correct a person?
Well, I think most people watching this conversation can't spell Graham.
Not the way you spell it.
That's true.
When Graham Smith became cricket captain, I was like, yes, finally another A-E-M-E-M-E-M-E,
Yeah. Look, it's very personal and it varies in terms of our levels of tolerance for people who butcher your name.
Yes.
I actually have a high threshold for people butchering my name. My grandfather, bless his soul, used to call me Mercedes. A lot of people butcher it and call me you buyers.
I've heard that.
Okay.
I've had BBC broadcasters. I actually love what the Brits did because I stayed in England for a couple of years and they often call me Eusebius and I think it just sounds so posh as opposed to Eusebius.
So distinguished.
If you see my name spelled in an email and you hit the reply button and you don't get it right, I think to myself, you didn't take enough effort.
Yeah, for
You know, you
sure.
absolutely didn't. So I get many variations on the spelling, but I don't actually mind. And here, I'm going to be a little bit controversial. I think, even though I self-identify as black, people who've been socialized as colored in South Africa, we are not as touchy about the significance of our names culturally as black Africans. And so there's a bit more leeway for me, for you to mangle my name. But if I'm emailing you first, please get it right.
Yeah.
And it's not only our traditions and cultures that are being disrespected when you mispronounce these names, you are being disrespected as a person.
Yes.
What other communities are being affected in this space when we are, misspelling these names? And how do we change this narrative? How do we educate people and say, you know what, I'm not okay with this. Please, can you correct yourself?
People change names for a number of reasons. I mean, you mentioned in the introduction dead naming. You know, if someone has transitioned, was born and acknowledged as a particular gender and then has claimed and evolved in their understanding of their own gender, to respect who they are, their understanding of themselves is just fundamental, So don't dead name people. But people also, apart from gender, I mean, people change their names when they get married. People change their names when they revert to Islam. People change their names when they get divorced, So a name is a journey, like identity is a journey. It's constantly evolving. Me respecting your name is me respecting who you define yourself as in this particular moment in time. And it might be something different tomorrow, but acknowledging your humanity allows me to get a deeper sense of who you are, because I'm acknowledging you on your terms. I think South African identity is so complex and layered that I wish sometimes, and I know we're reeling from like hundreds of years of trauma and stuff, and I don't make light of that, but I wish sometimes that we could accommodate each other by creating a sense of identity that feels like an invitation, that is more open, that acknowledges that we're not necessarily coming from the same place and your intentions might not be bad, Let me assume good intentions until you show me otherwise, right? But otherwise, here I am, I'm Lebogang, I'm inviting you in, right?
In this country, it's so easy because the heart is always... How often do you say that to yourself as an excuse? The heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
You get it. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
You're just suffering from having lived the life you've lived in this country for the last 30 years. You've been conditioned. I get that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it okay. And when we talk about starting that conversation and making it, and maybe that's where the secret lies, is in the conversation itself. Maybe not necessarily the outcome, but just in being able to talk about this. How do we foster that? Eusebius, how do we do this beyond this conversation? How do we create this kind of level of openness and this invitation in our own lives?
Look, there's an elephant in this conversation, so for all our conviviality, let's have the difficult conversation. In this country in particular, the habit of asking black people, is there a shorter version of your name? Is there another name I can call you by?
Yeah.
There's nothing I hate more than in the service industry, for example, go to a restaurant and you will find black staff who mysteriously all have English names.
Yeah.
In order to accommodate the patrons as well as management, would rather call you Sylvia than Leshlohonolo. And so what this is about is also power play. It's about social domination, it's about political domination, and the invitation to the viewer to ask someone, what is your name, what does it mean, and how do I say it, is about checking your own privilege and checking your tendency to trample on someone else's heritage because we have a long history that have given you license to get away with it. And so there's nothing innocent about saying, Leshlohonolo is their short version. My partner gets it all the time and it cheeses him off. His full name is Nduduzo, and invariably someone is looking for an English name or him to say, yeah, you can call me Indu, because that's what they'd rather do. And I think it's okay to give someone permission for the sake of easing workplace relations, for example, to call you by a different name. But I think we also have to do exactly what Lebo said at the beginning, which is to say, what is our motive when we accommodate someone else? Are we also legitimating domination? Because if we're doing that, we also have to check ourselves as victims and as survivors.
And survival is at the center of this, you know, because if the power dynamic is not skewed in your favor, right, I'm going to allow you to call me whatever you want to call me because I want to get in that school. I want to get this job.
Yes.
I need to pay my rent, you know.
Yes.
And if you play into that, then you're also playing into hundreds of years of that kind of conditioning and power dynamic. It's been such an impediment to the potential joy of living in such a diverse country, you know? It means that we walk around carrying this diversity as pain and shame.
It short circuits that potential of what we could do completely. Can we have another 3 hours? Anyone? Another 3 hours to chat about this? And I thought this wasn't going to be the meatiest of the discussions that we've had, but it is an eye-opener. Thank you so much to both of you. You are wonderful.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
So are you.
I am loving these important, brave conversations. So let's take pride in who we are and celebrate our names and what they mean to us.
Oh, indeed. Now, remember, you too can join the brave conversation we've had this week and stand a chance to win that ultimate cash prize of 1,000 Rand. And to win this week's cash prize, simply reply to the competition post on the Expresso Facebook, Twitter or Instagram page by telling us why representation matters, especially when it comes to disability. And don't forget to include that hashtag, Your Skin, Your Brave. Now, this week's competition closes at midday today, and those T's and C's can be found on our website, expressoshow.com.
Do you own your skin? Do you wear it bravely, even when others try to dim its glow? Does it represent your strength, your heritage, or does it express your brave and unconditional love? New look Ingrams, your skin, your brave.